All right, here we go. Hi everybody, this is Jim over here with Church Windows Software. Welcome on in here to our user group webinar. I've got 11 o'clock on my computer here, so it's time for us to go ahead and get started. I am coming to you live on a cool but clear day here in Columbus, Ohio. Nice to be here with you guys. I'm going to be joined here today by Josh. He can answer any questions that you have as we go through, as long as we keep it limited to our topic at hand, which is backing up your church Windows data and even the restore feature in there. Yeah, let's go ahead and get started on this. Okay, so when you're using our program, Church Windows, your program has a lot of potentially very sensitive and very important data in it. You can use usernames and passwords on your computer or on your Church Windows program to help safeguard that information from somebody walking up and clicking on your icon and getting into your program. The other step, which is an important step for the security of your data, but the other thing is making sure that you're backing that data up. Things can, computers are just machines. They're physical objects, and things can go wrong with those physical objects. There could be, a flood or a fire in your area, and if it were to destroy your computer where you have Church Windows installed on it, it of course is going to destroy your data as well. There is always the danger of malware or computer viruses that are out there in the world that can also come into your computer, make it unusable, and because Church Windows is installed on that computer, it will also make your data unusable. The current flavor, the virus activities, they kind of crest and peak throughout time. Sometimes there's a little lull in the action where there's not a lot of viruses out there that's really causing people problems. But sometimes, like right now, one or more of these viruses can kind of become a little more prevalent. The flavor of viruses that are out there right now causing everybody problems are these crypto locking viruses that get onto your computer from most commonly from a malformed website that goes in there and encrypts your databases so that they are unusable, and in fact all of the files on your computer. So right now is a good time to make darn sure you are getting good backups of your data. So let's go ahead and talk about that. Here is our Church Windows program. We are running on this version 19.16.0 today, and the backup utility is on your administration menu, and there is a backup button here at the top. When you click on backup, it takes you to this window where you can back up your data. Along the upper left-hand corner of the screen, it's asking you what you want to back up. The very top option is always going to be everything, all of the databases that you use in the Church Windows program. That is by far most commonly going to be what you're going to use on this screen. You also have the ability to back up specific databases if you don't want the accounting data, for example, to be transferred to another computer. You can only run that. But for a safeguard of all of your data in case of disaster recovery purposes, you're always going to want to do this one on the top. Okay, so that's what you're backing up, and below is where you're sending your backup to. Now, notice the way it is set up right now. If you look at that path, you're going to see where it's showing it's a backup to your desktop. That is not the best. What I was talking about before is if something were to happen to your computer, be it virus activity or it may be stolen, it may be destroyed, any number of things. If you're backing up to your local disk on your computer, you're going to lose your backup as well. Fortunately, our backup utility works great with those little USB drives that you can plug into the USB port on your computer. A lot of folks call them thumb drives. A lot of folks call them flash drives. But they're those little portable hard drives you just plug into the USB port on your computer. That allows you to send your backup to that drive. After you've completed your backup, you can unplug that USB drive, put it in your pocket or in your purse, and take it home with you. That means your backup is in a completely different location than your PC that has the Church Windows program installed on it. So you've got redundant copies of it in multiple places. Let me show you what I do with my USB drive on my computer. I'm going to go ahead and browse my computer here by clicking on my Windows File Explorer at the bottom. Here's my USB drive. It's the E drive on my computer called PKBack. I've got a folder in here called CW Backup. When I double click on this, I've got a series of folders with dates on them. So I back up my data, in this example, every Friday, and I put a date for when that backup is. I keep 3 separate copies of my backup here. So what I do before I run my backup is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to take my oldest one. In this case, I've got a 08/26/2016 folder. I'm going to go ahead and make it today's date to the backup I'm about to run. I'm going to go in here and rename it 09/16/2016, and that's where I'm going to send my next backup. So this allows you to have multiple copies of your Church Windows data. In case you need to go back a week, you can. If you need to go back 2 weeks, you can. So you can exit out of here, and now you'll be able to browse to where you want to go ahead and send that backup. Before I do this, I do want to point out one other thing that you can do, that I actually recommend you do before you run a Church Windows backup. I'm going to close here. Also on your administration menu, under where it says Support, the little hammer and wrench icon here, there's a little database maintenance utility built here into Church Windows. This just kind of goes through your databases and makes sure everything is in good working order. Running this before you run your backup makes sure that you're backing up the best data. This goes through and repairs any little glitches in your database. You just click that button. It's going to go through the process of fixing your data. You'll see a little progress bar that will eventually disappear when it's done doing its thing. Then when you exit out of this window, you have to launch Church Windows again, and you're ready to run your backup. After it goes through the process of making sure that it does error checking, make sure that your data is in good shape before it launches Church Windows with that maintaining database window. Okay, so now I've done my database repair. Now I'm ready for my backup. I just go to Administration, go to Backup Data. Make sure I select my top option on here, Membership Scheduler, Donations, and Accounting, and I'll click Browse. Find my E drive, which is my USB. Go to my backup folder. There's my 9/16/2016 folder for today's date. Click OK, and to start my backup, I click this button. If you already have a backup in the folder where you're running your backup, it's going to give you this message. It's going to tell you that it already contains a particular file. It'll tell you the date, that you made your original backup, and do you want to replace. Delete the file means it's going to get rid of the original and replace it with a current backup. So saying yes to this means I'm going to get rid of my old backup, and I'm going to put a new backup in that folder. At the bottom of the screen, you're going to see it's going through its process of backing up all of the important information from Church Windows. You'll see a series of these statement layouts that you may pop up on your screen. We've got many, many, many of them here in our training data because we work on all of these different report layouts for these different webinars that we have. Your number is probably not going to be anywhere near 1,000 of these files. Your church Windows database backups, I think it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8 files usually. And then however many of the other ones are the different report layouts that you have. Clicking OK takes you out of there. Cool. So now you got your file. At this point in the process, if I come and take a look, there's our new backup we just created today, a minute ago. At this point, you would go ahead and unplug your USB drive, keep it with you, take it off site. That helps you make sure that you've got a good backup of your data. Right, excellent question. Joyce just came in and asked if you run church Windows on a network. You can actually run this utility from any computer that accesses church Windows. So that includes a workstation computer. You can run a backup to your local USB drive, even if you're sitting at a workstation. The only thing about a network is you need to make sure nobody else is in the program on your network there, because you need exclusive access to those databases when you run that. So it may give you a message that somebody is still in the program. When you need to run your backup, you need to go to their desk and make sure that they have closed out of the program. Also, for folks who are our web customers, when you do your browse on that backup data window, you need to browse to a different location. A lot of times, like the C drive and things like that, when you do browse, if you're on the web, it might be the drives on the computer that's hosting church Windows out on the internet, which is a bit of a complicated thing to get your brain around, but we have some documentation available for that on our website. This is our website, churchwindows.com. If you scroll down the left side, underneath this blue bubble for using church Windows, we've got a series of great resources for you, including this one called the support blog. There's a number of articles that we have available on here for different resources on here, and it's a searchable resource for you guys. So if you come here in the search box and you type in the word backup and do your search, there's a number of articles on here, including how to create a backup using the RD Web version of Church Windows Web, and there's another version of it called the Citrix version of it. You know, if you're one of our web customers, you should know which one of those you are. But there's documentation about how to run your backups from there. This is a local install of Church Windows on my computer, so I can't recreate that. But like I said, if you go to churchwindows.com, find the support blog underneath the Using Church Windows bubble and do a search for backup. There's a number of articles about that there. Okay. That's for our web customers. Any modern USB drive is going to have way more than enough space for any church Windows backups. So, you know, the only time I would worry about space on your USB drive if it's like a 6 or 7 year old drive. Any modern USB drive is going to be at least 1 gig of space, and that's going to be more than sufficient for any church Windows backups. Okay, so the next thing I kind of want to touch on is if you ever need to restore from a backup. It could be that there was some data entry that you want to overwrite in the Church Windows program, and when you restore Church Windows data, understand that it's going to take you back all of your Church Windows data to the same state it was in at the time you ran your backup. So there's a couple, you know, it could be something where you want to restore data because you entered something improperly and you just kind of want to go back to the way it was before. Some folks also have multiple copies of Church Windows, for example, one on their home computer and one at the church. And if you make changes at church, you might want to carry that home or vice versa. Again, if you're doing something like that, just make darn sure you know what you're restoring, because you're going to restore all of that information onto your computer there. But with that in mind, I just want to kind of point out, on your administration menu, not only is there a backup button, but there is a restore button as well. So if we go here to restore, it's a very similar looking window. It defaults to the last place you ran a backup if you look in under location in the upper left hand corner here. So there's the original location. There's that 9/16/2016 folder I just made. And there's all that information on here. Restoring data from this window is simply a matter of clicking Start Restore. There's a Browse button if you want to go to a different directory for where you're restoring your data from. And just clicking Start Restore is going to kind of take you back to that first place. Error in data entry. Okay, so now when you restore data now with current versions of Church Windows, it logs a reason. So there's auditing involved with this. So I'm just going to say I need to do this just to show people in my webinar. So it's going to go through its process and restore that data. Okay. Now, questions coming in about other backup utilities, and I do want to touch on this quickly before, because this is only a 20-minute webinar, so I'm going to go ahead and make sure I touch on this before I let you all go. I'm going to let this complete, and then I want to show you about. Now, this backup utility built into the Church Windows program is designed for Church Windows. When you run these backups and you get your message that says backup completed successfully, you can be confident that you actually have your backup of your data, right? It's built in and it works. But for folks who use other backup utilities, whether it's a tape on a server, whether it's some kind of automated backup like Carbonite, or any of dozens and dozens of other backup programs, I want to show you what you need to make sure your backup is actually getting. Most of these backup utilities, you can browse the files in your backup to make sure you know what's in that backup. And I recommend double checking and making sure you see what's getting into your backup, because some backup utilities don't successfully get the Church Windows databases. If I come here to the Church Windows icon on my desktop and I right click and go to Properties, it's going to show us where the folder is for Church Windows. So in this case, I have the program running in the default folder on my computer in C:\CW. I'm going to click on Open File Location to take me into that Church Windows folder. And all of the data that you need to make sure that you're getting, appropriately enough, is going to be in a folder called Data. This is where all of your Church Windows data lives. If I double click on here, these are the files you want to make sure that your backup is getting. The two MDB files, CW main, CW member, that's your membership data. Those are usually fine. These lock files, there's no actual information in there, but these two MDB files are the important ones. You also have a series of these other files that have these big long strings of letters and numbers, unique identifiers for different modules in the Church Windows program. So you'll have two that begin with the letter A, that's your accounting data. Two that begin with D, donations data. The two that begin with R is your scheduler data. Two that begin with S is your settings, and two that begin with U is your users. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of these. You want to make sure that if you're using a third-party utility that you're getting all of those files. And that's the basics of backing up and restoring Church Windows data. It's not, it's a simple thing, but it's a very important thing. It is much better to have a backup and not need it than to need a backup and not have it. It's heartbreaking as a telephone support technician for Church Windows to talk to folks who have something catastrophic happen on their computer and they lose years of their data because they haven't been backing up the program. So it's worth, believe me, it's worth the minute or two at the end of your work week or at the end of your work day to just get a copy of your data and make sure you're in good shape there. Okay, great. Thanks for joining me, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and end this here. If you're all set to go and get on with your day, thanks for joining me. There is an X in the upper right-hand corner of your GoToWebinar control panel. You can click on that and it'll exit you out of the webinar. So thanks for joining me here today. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take a moment and take a look at any questions we may have had. Is it possible just to restore membership from the MSDA zip file? The thing about just restoring membership is that membership, the module for membership, is so tied in with the information in your donations module that both membership and donations must be restored together. You can't just restore membership and you can't just restore donations. They are linked and the program won't allow you just to restore those. So if I come here to restore and I look at all of my files, you can select single things in here. If I go find my data here, let me see, so many report formats in here. Once I get to my data, I just want to show you what happens when okay, there's our data. So if you come in here and you just go CW member, for example, and you click Start Restore, show and don't, not instead of telling, CW member, CW maint, the scheduler, and the donations must be restored together. So it's actually the scheduler, the donations, and the membership must be restored together. So you can't just pick one of them and restore just that. They are tied together too closely to just restore one of them. So that's the message. The membership file, the maintenance, which are all the information about the special fields in membership, and then the rest of that, scheduler and donations have to be restored separately. All right, I think we're all set. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar here. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me here today. I hope you have a lovely rest of your afternoon. We'll talk to you on down the line. Thanks for joining me, everybody. Bye now.